What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. Tonight's show, one of my favorite events of the entire year, the NFL draft has just finished, so we are going to recap the draft as much as we can in an hour or so. Definitely day one, definitely day two. We'll see how much into day three we get, who we think came out as winners, who we think came out with egg on their face. But first, Kevin Reynolds, how you doing, bud?
Pretty good. A lot of rain lately, cramping my job here, but other than that, not too bad. Spent the weekend with my little lady, so that was fun.
Can't train folks to play tennis in the rain?
Doesn't work very well. Yeah, it's frowned upon. Frowned upon. Bobby, can I ask you a quick question?
Please.
For those of you who are listening, you're not going to resist. But have I ever shown you this shirt?
What? No.
My Peter Tingle shirt.
I don't even know what that is.
What's from MCU? That's what Aunt May calls Spider-Man's Spidey sense. She calls this Peter Tingle.
Oh, gotcha.
And of course, he gets all embarrassed and tells her to be quiet.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
I thought you were an MCU fan. I thought you'd appreciate it. I guess I was wrong.
I am. I do enjoy Marvel. I do. I just wasn't anticipating a Peter Tingle shirt.
It came with my Funko box set that we subscribe to every other month. It comes with 2 Funko Pops, MCU, a T-shirt, and then like some pins, stickers, those type gadgets. $29.99. It's quite enjoyable. And you get limited edition Pops.
I own 0 Funko Pops, mostly because I'm not 14. But
I have about 300.
To each their own, Kevin. Okay. All right. Well, can we
I'm
get
going to
into this
send
draft?
you one just because you're a jerk.
Please. Oh, please do.
Because you got a bad attitude. I might even send you Spider-Man. You can sit there and look, what is this contraption?
That would be great. I'd put it on the mantle, so I look at it every day.
Very good. I'll hold you to that.
All right. So the number 1 pick, it went as planned, Bryce Young. But then the number 2, a lot of questions surrounding that. Houston takes C.J. Stroud, and then they trade up from 12 to number 3 to grab Will Anderson, most likely in a lot of folks' minds, the best pass rusher in the draft. To do that, they gave up pick 12, pick 33, next year's first round pick, and their 3rd. They did receive a 4th in this draft, but I know that you were not a fan of that move. Is that correct?
I thought they gave up a lot for a guy who's good, but I don't think great. But quickly, if we're just going through these one at a time, I'd like to pat myself on the back real quick about C.J. Stroud, because I've been saying for weeks that was all a load of crap that Houston was spitting out, and that they would, in fact, take C.J. Stroud, who you felt should have went number 1. But since he can't spell his own name, dropped to 2.
That may be a slight exaggeration, especially since his name is really just letters. A 1 letter.
That makes it even worse, doesn't it? Let's see.
But I am very excited for them, and I'm happy that they took C.J. Stroud at 2. That I felt good about that. I agree. Will Anderson, man, he's not Myles Garrett. I've heard a lot of people say he's probably the best pass rusher in this class, but he's not Myles Garrett. He's not any of the Bosa brothers. So what are we doing giving up that much for him? Well, if nothing else, Houston got at least 2 of their top 3 players on their board. They wanted those guys, and they got them. It almost felt like the owner wanted one guy and the GM wanted another, and the GM didn't want to get fired, so he took whoever the owner wanted or took who he wanted, then made sure he got the other one. You know what I'm saying? But good for them, man. They got they got who they wanted.
It's funny. I just saw a thing online, a prediction for next year. If you go by the Vegas odds to win the Super Bowl right now, the worst 2 teams are Arizona and Houston still. Excuse me. And if that were to be the case, Arizona would have, without trading anything, the 1st and 2nd picks in next year's draft. And boy, now we're talking.
Unless Houston traded, the first they gave away was Cleveland's first, but I don't think it was. I think it was their own pick. that they
Which
gave
one?
up to
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
next
yeah,
year's.
yeah,
I think it was their own.
yeah,
Man, that would be.
yeah. Because this
And
mock
Houston,
then had Caleb was Williams, right? And
yes.
Marvin Harrison Jr. going 1 and 2. Boy, that's a way
Well,
to get a team going there.
yeah, but Kyler Murray's contract, they would have to trade him because they
Yeah.
got a lot of dead cap hit. I looked it up the other day. They they're tied to him for quite a
Yeah, they'll
while.
have to eat. They'd have to eat a lot of money if they're going to do that, or let him sit for a year, and then I think it's only 1 year, and then it's all dead years that they can just. But still, yeah, they're going to have to absorb a lot of money.
Then the Colts come up and I think, at least as far as me and most people are concerned, with a shocking pick,
Woo!
they took Anthony Richardson, your guy, at number
Mm-hmm.
4. And I know you loved it. I obviously hated it. I can't draft a quarterback that early who isn't that good at playing quarterback.
Yeah, he should have went 1.
Okay. There's just wait, hold on. Let me quote the great Kevin Reynolds. That's your foolishness.
That is one of my quotes. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, here's my problem. Anthony Richardson is really good at football, but he's not good at being a quarterback. Throwing is important, and he hasn't shown a propensity to excel at it. It's like if I was a college and I'm trying to hire a biology professor, but instead I hire a chemistry guy to teach my biology classes. Yeah, they're both good at science, but it's completely different. I would have to teach this chemist to teach biology, and I don't want to do that. I want to get a guy that comes in here that knows how to play quarterback already. If I'm picking at 4, if I'm picking Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round, yeah, let's coach him, let's develop him. Let's give him some time. Not if I'm picking at 4. I don't care how athletic you are.
Yeah, but this biology teacher is the greatest, like botanist, zoologist, microbiome, you name it. He's got all the intangibles. He's the best of everything in the freaking in the amateur world.
If
And
you
now
can't
all we got to
teach,
do is get
doesn't
him a
matter.
little more accurate. My only issue with it is they said they can work with accuracy. It's my experience in life. It is very hard to teach accuracy. Matter of fact, you can't. There's no such thing as teaching. You're either accurate or you're not. But you can work on some fundamentals, better decision making to make yourself a little more accurate, but you can't really truly teach it. You can only tweak some things and hope that you will get more accurate. That said, it was more than worth it to take him there. If he works out to be anything like a Hurts or Jackson, it'll be a steal. If he doesn't, then yeah, he's just another first round flame out like half these guys are going to be.
Another shocking ish move was when Detroit, so Arizona traded back to 12 with Houston, and then they decided, I'm tired of waiting. So they traded back up with Detroit, and Arizona ended up taking Paris Johnson, offensive tackle. Good for them. They need that. He's a great player. Fantastic. Detroit, however, at 12 picks Jameer Gibbs, running back from Alabama, just 4 picks after Bijan. And I read somewhere that if they had stayed at 6, they were still going to take Mr. Gibbs, which
Yeah,
is
they say
mind
that, but I
blowing.
think that's a
I
crock.
know, I know, I know. Honestly, I think it's a bit mind blowing. They took Gibbs at 12 where they did. He probably would have been at 18 or even later. It's just, I felt like a reach, although I know, judging by the video of their draft room, they did not think it was a reach for Gibbs at all.
No, it looked like they were about ready to all just get a little crazy, start popping the champagne like they just won a freaking Super Bowl. Here's the
Pounding
deal. We've
tables.
talked about this a little bit, and I think about it. I actually think he's got the chance to be a straight freaking beast. The issue was where they took him, the value of it. That you're right, they could have easily just got down to 18, 20, 22, maybe later, and got him then. Just all the needs they have, which are primarily on defense, they just chose to not really strongly
Christian
address.
Christian Gonzalez is sitting right there at 12. Didn't think about taking him.
He just fell and fell and fell. Nobody thought about taking him.
Lucas Van Ness, he went next. Imagine Aiden Hutchinson on one side and Van Ness on the other.
Yeah,
What
I don't
pass
know,
rushing
dude.
duo he
It's
got.
very odd that they're that high on the guy. Your boy then got traded to Philly because of it. Should be
Yeah,
good for 67 games. Uh,
sure.
I don't know. I don't know
And
what to say. Like I said, I think he could be a top 5 back in the league, Gibbs. But I just still can't believe they took him where they did.
Jameer Gibbs is DeAndre Swift, except 10 pounds lighter. They play a very similar style of
Yeah.
football. But I mean, we'll see. Look, hey, we could be the ones left with egg on our face. I just
Well, again, I
seems
think he's going to be a beast. It's
so
just
early.
that they didn't have to take him there. Like you said,
Right.
they could have addressed something on defense and then still got him 10 picks later.
I know a lot of people. I saw a lot of mocks where Bijan Robinson went 8 to Atlanta. I didn't see that happening. I thought they'd be a little smarter than that. Obviously, I was wrong. And then Washington taking Emmanuel Forbes at 16 before Christian Gonzalez, who was the next pick with New England at 17. I don't know how you take Forbes over Gonzalez.
Yeah, you're really down on him. I had mentioned on last week's show that Forbes was going to sneak into the first round. You told
I
me
am
I was
less.
crazy.
No, 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 no. I thought Forbes would
You
go in the
said
first
he's
round.
too little.
No, I thought I was pretty sure he'd go in the first round.
Hmm.
I absolutely did not think he'd go before Gonzalez.
I
And
don't
it's
think
more
anybody in the world thought that.
I am higher, way higher on Gonzalez than I am on Forbes.
Did Washington just not realize Gonzalez hadn't been taken? Like
You know,
he slipped so far and they just didn't realize it. I mean, I guess that could happen.
like one of those fantasy drafts when you just assume some guy's gone.
Yeah, it's very, very strange.
It, man, you ain't lying, buddy.
Uh,
And then the Lions, not to outdo themselves with their pick at 12, they take Jack Campbell, linebacker, at 18, when we weren't even sure linebacker was going to go in the first round. And minus that pick, we would have been right. No one else, no other linebackers went in the first round. Just Campbell at 18.
yeah, that was another big reach. I've not found anything. I've actually found something to think it wasn't bad that they got him. It is a need. Run stopping linebackers is something that they really needed. But again, trade back, get some more draft capital, and take him 10 picks later.
Yeah,
It's just so weird. And
100%.
you and I during the draft were like, "Boy, everything we love about Detroit is all just it's like they just can't get out of their own way. Everything's going so well, and then this silliness happens."
And then most of the other picks made sense. We had 4 wide receivers go all in a row, bang, bang, bang. Besides the Seahawks, maybe the Chargers, Ravens, Vikings, they all needed pass catching help. Deontay Banks, your boy, went. Bills took a tight end. Dalton Kincaid. All these other picks really made sense.
Yeah, all that first time in NFL history that 4 receivers went in a row, and
Yep.
I've seen a lot of experts loving the Quentin Johnston pick. I guess they knew. I mean, I he was my number one guy coming out, but I just don't know. Now, those other boys are hurt all the time, so this is a great insurance policy. If because it's not like he's a guy you just throw in the slot. I guess Allen will start playing a lot more slot.
I would prefer speedster for them rather than another like Mike Williams type of body build.
He's not
Um,
exactly slow.
yeah, he plays faster than his time, than his 40 time, but if you put Zay Flowers there instead of Quentin Johnson, I'd like that a lot more. And
Okay.
so would you, because maybe Johnson would have gone to
To the
your
Ravens,
Ravens.
yeah, I would like that. Jordan Addison, I think, has a very high chance of just at least his rookie year of outdoing all these other guys, just because how
Well,
he's going to be used. He's going to be thrust right into a very prolific starting spot
yeah, and it helps having the best wide receiver in the game
on the other
taking all
side
the
of you
attention away
and a
from you.
quarterback who can actually throw.
Right. So for me, two losers for me on day one. Detroit, because had they stayed at 6, they could have had any offensive tackle they wanted, Jalen Carter, Christian Gonzalez, whoever. But they traded back, took Gibbs instead. Uh, you know, basically a younger, smaller DeAndre Swift. Detroit had the 5th highest scoring offense last season, the 4th worst scoring defense. So great offense, terrible defense.
Yep.
But with their first pick, they take a running back. I'm not I'm not sure what kind of thinking went into that. And then another one for me is Atlanta, which sounds odd because they got the best running back in probably the last 5 to 10 years coming
But
out in the
why?
draft. Because listen, they take Bijan Robinson, their rookie running back, who we talked about last week, Tyler Algier, over 1,000 yards rushing,
Yeah.
just shy of 5 yards a carry. He was the 14th leading rusher in the league. Not great, not number one, but certainly, middle of the pack.
14th as far as what? Total yards?
Total yards,
Well, yeah, I
correct.
mean, he didn't start the first half of the year,
Right.
first 6, 7 games. So that makes it
Exactly.
difficult.
Exactly.
No, I'm agreeing with you. When I yelled out, I was agreeing with you that I
Oh,
think
got it.
Atlanta
Sorry.
jumped the gun on this. It doesn't make
Oh,
sense when you had a rookie back who, for all intents and purposes, had an amazing freaking year, and you got Patterson to back him up. This just doesn't. Again, a cruddy team who can't stop anyone, and you just add to a position you already have.
Kevin, how do teams build to win championships?
Well, they used to say defense, but man, the NFL's changed a lot. But still, you have to have a defense that can at least hold teams to under 30.
And you build right, and you build from the inside out, right?
Yeah.
The Eagles are known for taking big boys, right? Doesn't matter, offense, defense, the big boys up front. In the last three drafts, Atlanta's first round picks, Kyle Pitts, tight end, Drake London, wide receiver, and now Bijan Robinson. They are getting all of these weapons, but don't have the foundation. The house is beautiful, but there's no foundation. You know what I mean? And it just makes absolutely zero sense why they're trying to build this team around nothing.
And on top of it all, a less than stellar quarterback. So you're not going to be one of these teams like the Lions who can get away with a poor defense because they score 41 a game. And that's not happening in Atlanta. They'll be lucky if they score 24 a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we might have some good fantasy assets here. Bijan Robinson might be the number one overall fantasy pick by the time season rolls around.
Maybe, but that's not football.
Right.
That's us living our fantasy dreams and living
That's right.
vicariously through others.
Do you have any other losers on top of those?
No, not really, because we've covered so much of this stuff
Right.
already.
Uh,
No, I mean,
that's cool. I got a couple winners, and I'm not going to talk about my Eagles. I know everyone loves it. You and I both
no,
know
we're not letting you off the hook there. Sorry, buddy. Nope.
what.
We're going to talk
No.
about them.
Well, we can talk about them after I talk about Seattle.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm not going to bring it up, but you can. Them picking at 5 was always an interesting pick. I mean, very few people knew what direction they were going to go. I saw people mocking corners and pass rushers, Jalen Carter, offensive tackles. I saw quarterbacks going to them at 5. They ended up taking Devin Witherspoon, cornerback from Illinois, and usually they take bigger guys at that position. He's not, he's what is he? 5'11", 6 foot, 180 pounds, something like that. But this dude has an attitude, man. He will punch you in the mouth every single play. He's plays cocky on the field, which you need in a defensive back. And then they go around with their second pick and 20th at 20 and take Jackson Smith and Jigba, the best wide receiver in this draft class, if you ask me. And I guarantee you they went through a lot of scenarios in their draft room coming up to this. And I bet not one of them had JSN sitting there looking at them at 20. I think most people thought he was going to go before pick 20, and he didn't. And granted, you got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. It's not an immediate need, but good grief. You got the best wide receiver in this draft class sitting there staring at you in the face. You take him. So good for them.
The fact they got him at 20 makes this worth it. Otherwise, again, it's a team building upon something that they already have when they have plenty of other glaring needs. I've told you before, I'm still not a big fan of Geno Smith, and he drastically regressed the second half of the year last year. I'm with you. I don't think he'll have a stellar rookie year, but by year 2, when Tyler Lockett's probably going, this could turn into something big. Well, and we'll see how he returns from injury. He hasn't played any meaningful football for some time. So
And
let's
I got
see how this all goes. But yeah, getting him
right.
at 20 there, that was a steal.
Oh, for sure. I can't believe a wide receiver did not go in
None
the
of the
first
four of
19
them. It's
picks.
just crazy that they all, and then it just
I
was a
know.
run. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's like everyone's playing chicken. Like, you gonna take a wide receiver here? No,
Yeah.
okay, I'll wait. And then as soon as one goes, it's like, all right, well, this has gone on long enough.
There's one pick that we already covered in this whole first round with Christian Gonzalez. I get it because it's the same thing. We're at 17 and Christian Gonzalez is still there. We have to take him.
Yeah.
But Belichick's known for taking fifth, sixth, seventh rounders, turning them into all pro corners. So I was actually barely surprised because he's already what he turns these other guys into, because those rookies he drafted last year had great seasons. The rest of their team wasn't too stellar, but those corners played really well. So I was sort of surprised he didn't address something else. That said, it's hard to pass that up when it just falls in your lap.
Well, yeah, maybe Bill Belichick realizes the team that he has right now and knows if he can coach one less guy, it might help him out a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, and the Mazzie Smith thing, Cowboys been taking a lot of heat, and they took it from us during the draft. But the more I've now researched the dude, I don't think it was really that bad. It's not a splashy. I think
Right.
we expect the Cowboys to do something splashy all the time. And for once, I think maybe they drafted a guy that actually fits what they needed. And people just don't like it because Jerry Jones is supposed to do something crazy.
It's just shocking his lack of production. How do you play with like 3 years and be as athletic as he is and only get half a sack? Just kind of odd.
I don't know. I don't know. I think they've gotten him as much as anything for run stopping. But
So I got another winner for you on day one. Ready? And I don't think I've heard anyone say this, but I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders as being a winner on day one of the draft. And it's pretty easy. The reason being they didn't screw it up. We have talked so many times about how terrible the Raiders are at drafting, especially in the first round. I don't know if Tyree Wilson's going to pan out, but most folks had him as the number one or number two best pass rusher in the draft. And the Raiders took him. There's a need and a good player, and they took him. They didn't get cute. They didn't try to do anything weird. And granted, the bar isn't set real high here, but Raiders fans everywhere, I'm sure, breathed a sigh of relief when they did not screw this thing up.
yeah, I thought it was a smart pick. But surprisingly, I've seen some, again, experts who are sort of down on Wilson. He's a guy that a few months ago was going to be like a top 15 guy. Next thing you know, there's talk that he's going number 2. We had seen a few mocks. We didn't necessarily think that, but we had seen it of him going to the Texans at 2. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good pick. I don't understand why these people are down, but I did look. That's why I looked and realized he's just been on like this roller coaster of what people thought he might be, and he ends up sort of right in the middle of where he was and where he ended up, and now ultimately number 7.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead, Eagles. You take the lead on this.
So they won, to me, the entire draft, and you can't find too many people who don't think they did. The only way this isn't working out is if your boy turns out to be what all of his Georgia coaches say, the biggest jackass D-bag in the freaking college football. It's rare. We talked earlier this week that you find a player coming out of college that all of his coaches had nothing but negative things to say about the guy. And then we listen to him talk when he gets drafted, and he sounds like the biggest idiot on earth. Like, again, a guy who really actually can't spell his own name. I don't know. Has he learned anything? I mean, I don't know. I just don't know how it's works. But getting him at 9, trading up from 10 to 9 to get him, wow,
If
brilliant.
if if he pans out, it's an incredible pick.
Yes.
Because he is the most gifted football player in this draft, regardless of position.
But 2 years in a row, you've gotten defensive linemen that you didn't want.
Right. Well, I know. So because Jordan Davis last year, obviously, I
But
was
he
not a big
wasn't a character thing with you, I don't think, was he? You just didn't
right.
think he was a very worth of going that high. What was he like?
Yes.
He went like 21, 22 they had last year. 14?
No,
No.
no, he went like 13, I think.
Was he
I'll
that?
look
Was
it
it
up.
that high? The Eagles were that
Yeah,
high?
it was. It
Okay.
was right before Kyle Richardson, right?
Yeah, I can't remember.
All right. Or no, not wait,
Kyle
Kyle
Hamilton.
Hamilton. Yeah, sorry. Got Anthony Richardson on the brain. Um, yeah, it's the character thing for me. And that's the number one deal breaker when it's coming to these guys coming out, is character. And I know the Eagles are thinking we got Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham in the same meetings, leading the way, showing this young man how it's done. And they have 14 of his teammates on the roster at this point from Georgia, most notably Nakobe Dean, who they drafted last year, because by all accounts, Nakobe Dean was the leader of that Georgia Bulldogs defense. And if Jordan Davis is going to listen to anybody, it might be Dean, even though he weighs 100 pounds less than him. But if he's the leader, he's a leader. So I'm sure they're hoping they have the culture in the locker room and the men in there to help um, Jalen Carter, make good choices and be a mature adult. And then they get Nolan Smith, another Bulldog, at pick
Yep.
30, which a lot of folks had him going in the top 15. Didn't happen, fell. So again, not a guy I was high on. I don't like his size. I know Hassan Reddick is a similar size and made it happen, but that's an anomaly. I don't like betting on anomalies. However, it's tough to argue with Harry Roseman.
I mean, he fell because what? He tore his pec in November or something. Something like. Is that what it was? Didn't he have a torn pec?
Uh, I
It's
know it's
something. He
fine
didn't
because
finish the
he
season.
did all the testing. Nakobe Dean was a peck, I think, but he did all
But
the testing.
something happened with Nolan Smith too. He had some injury at the year because I read the other day it's part of the reason why he dropped a bit. But dude,
Right.
I mean, he was supposed to is projected to go way higher than that.
Yeah.
And my thing, here's the thing: their defense is so good, coming off an historic season. Actually, what the all-time sack record? That even
I
if
think
Carter,
they tied it or came up one
okay,
short,
I know
something
they
like
had,
that.
well, I think they had 70 sacks.
Very close. Yeah.
Um, even if he doesn't work out, they could cut him in June, and his defense is still just going to be stacked.
Right.
So the one thing here with him is if there was a defense in the league that could afford to take the risk, it was the Eagles,
Right.
because even without him, they are likely still one of the top 3 to 5 defenses, if not the top. So yeah, they were a clear winner, dude. I don't know how else.
The
How else
first,
you? I mean,
I like what they did in the rest of the draft, which we're going to get to here right now. I like what they did with the rest of the draft more so than and it's simply because I'm not big on those two guys. If
I
I was higher
noticed
on those two guys,
I
like
noticed
most
you,
people are,
and it's weird with something with you here is typically you're excited about offensive tackles and you just brushed on by them as though they don't exist during your little speech here.
well, it was expected, I think. Are you
Because
talking
I've
about the?
seen things though that grades the Skoronski and Broderick Jones picks both as A pluses where they went. That they couldn't
Yeah,
believe Skoronski fell to Tennessee, and that Tennessee couldn't either. Apparently, they had it wasn't even on their board because they thought there was no chance he was falling to 11. And then the Broderick Jones to Pittsburgh thing is everywhere I see A plus, A plus, A plus, A plus. Just
right.
fits that whole team perfectly. The
So I
Darnell Wright, though, I
was
don't see such high praise for.
right. So I was when we did our mock draft, I was odds. In the mock draft, I had Paris Johnson going to Vegas at 7. I had Skaronski going to Chicago at 9, and I had Broderick Jones going to Tennessee at 11. So me personally, I assumed this was going to happen because I all those guys I think are high quality players at very valued positions in the National Football League. So I kind of thought that would happen.
No, I don't think anything was weird of them. I thought the weird thing was the Darnell Wright past Skoronski.
Yeah,
I didn't
true.
see a mock anywhere that had that happen. Even
Yeah.
when it happened on the ESPN, they were like, "This is a little weird. Well, they must know
Well,
something that we don't."
and in our mock, I had him going 17 to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so they all went to the
Yeah.
teams that we thought they'd go to. Just in a
Right.
few of them switched teams, or 3 of
And,
them
and
switched
I
teams.
and I love that my boy Anton Harrison got up in that first round too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Oh, I love
All
the
right.
Jags.
Day 2, you ready?
Sure, buddy.
My favorite, we had a nice little 33, 34, 35 right off the bat. Those three picks was interesting because the Titans trade up to 33 to get Will Levis, who completely fell out of the first round. The very next pick, the Lions, not to be outdone by themselves twice in the first round, take Sam Laporta, tight end. Look, I don't hate him. He is a solid, solid player. However, with the very next pick, the Raiders traded up. I bet the Raiders were in their room thinking, it'd be really nice to get Michael Mayer here, but I know the Lions are going to take Lions take tight end Sam Laporta. They probably burst out laughing and said, "All right, call whoever's at 34. We got to trade up here." And they take Michael Mayer. So look, Vegas, that's two picks in a row, man. Good for you. Golf clap. You got rid of Darren Waller. You brought in Michael Mayer. Solid. The
So
Lions, I don't know what
bizarre.
we're doing here. I don't know what we're doing, man.
We had mentioned going into this draft how it was turning slowly into what we thought might be the most boring draft ever, into one that was going to be actually very exciting because of so many just no names and strange things that might go on with players going places we didn't expect because everybody's the same. But even we were taken aback by a few of these Lions things. I mean, we're texting and just like, what? Really? What?
They did make up for it at 45. They took Brian Branch, who I have no idea
Oh,
how
that
he
might be
fell.
one of the steals of the draft.
Yes,
Then
all the way
getting
to
Hooker, I
45.
mean,
Yeah, and they got Hooker with the fifth pick of the third round.
yeah.
So, and I mentioned this to you. I'm like, all right, so they got five picks here. Let's just say, for funsies, they took Hooker at 12. They took Brian Branch at 18. They took Jameer Gibbs, or even if they took him at 18 and they took the other one, be it Branch or Gibbs, at 30, at 34, and then they took Laporta,
Yeah, we just flip all the names. All of a sudden, it seems brilliant.
then I'm good. Right. I'm good. It's just so they ended up where they should have been. It was just a very puzzling way to get there.
It was. PFF gave him a draft grade of B plus overall. We're going to get more into that when we do our draft grade shows for these full teams. But
It's because they got there.
it
You
was
know what I
just
mean?
is strange. It's like this stupid ass Common Core math. Instead of just like 2 + 3 = 5, just let's make this straightforward and easy. You've got to have some pigs here and a farmer there and two cows down the street, and they all went to Mars one day. Somehow that ended up as 5. Show your work. One of those type strange scenarios.
Yes. I tell you, you talk about strange. How about pick 46 when the New England Patriots take my guy, Keon White?
You were angry.
No. Well, yeah, because I texted you right before that, and I was like, dude, there's a chance that Keon White and Zach Charbonnet fall to the Eagles. But regardless,
You
if
jinxed
you
it.
were not if you were not watching TV when Keon White got drafted, you missed the most frightening human being I have ever seen in my life. He looked like he was angry at the world and was gonna eat it. Just it
Eat the
did not look
world.
like he was just drafted in the NFL draft. I just it's tough to put into words the fearsome look on that dude's face.
Yeah, I missed it.
I text you. I thought you were watching. I thought you said you saw
I
it.
was watching / not watching. I had my daughter,
Oh,
and
it was
once we get
terrifying.
this far into the draft, I'm not like just staring at it the whole time. I actually
I got
had
you.
it on my phone, ESPN on my phone, while she had something Disney on.
Well, I'll tell you another pick I loved was at 39. The Panthers took Jonathan Mingo. He was very few big wide receivers in this class. He is one of them, and
He
he is
is.
explosive. So when you have old man Adam Thielen helping you with these shorter routes, get these first, these 3rd and 7s, you want to go to Adam Thielen. Mingo is going to be the guy that opens the field up and has some explosive plays for you. So I thought that was a great pick by the Panthers at 39.
Um, I'll tell you one that didn't make sense to me was Joe Tippmann. They're the best center in the draft. Why would you bring him in when you just re-signed your center?
Because I think they'll move him to guard.
You think?
I mean, if you can play center, you can play guard usually
It's true.
because those centers they're supposed to be the smartest guys on the field outside
And
the
their
quarterback.
center they only brought back for a 1 year deal, but still.
There you
But
go.
I like the pick there. I just didn't think it made a whole lot of sense for the Jets. But man, he was a guy that I saw occasionally late first round.
Yo, yeah, for sure.
That's one I liked. You liked your boy Charbonnet
Oh,
going to the Seahawks.
no, you're just ruining Kenneth Walker in fantasy. It's great
Yeah,
for real football.
I
You
saw
got
a
to
thing today
toss
that
him
had
onto the
Kenneth
quarterback.
Walker listed as the #2 loser of this
Yeah.
draft. I forget who was
Yes.
#1, but #2 was him because they feel that Charbonnet will get a lot more carries than what 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 Pete Carroll will probably lead people to believe.
And I don't know. I mean, you could have gone. The running back was one of the deepest classes in this draft. You could have got someone in rounds 4, 5, 6. What are we doing taking Charbonnet in the second just to mess with Kenneth Walker?
But are we talking about football here though, or fantasy?
We're talking about fantasy for a second because I wanted Charbonnet to be great, and I love Kenneth Walker. In real football, they have two solid backs,
Yes. Okay,
so
so
I don't have to
we're
like it.
just making sure we're keeping it straight for
Yes.
folks that Pete Carroll does not care about our fantasy squads there. Because I thought you
Um,
were excited. This is a guy that you hyped up and hyped up, and the way you talked about him, he should have won the top 7 picks.
okay,
But I thought you'd be excited that he went where he went.
I want him to go somewhere where he's gonna be the lead dog, and there weren't
Yeah,
too many spots
it's not
out
going to
there
be
for
there.
right.
That's for damn sure.
And then the
But
Bills
I
got to
think
steal
this takes our boy and makes him not maybe a top 3 fantasy pick now.
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I've seen some where he's going top 3, but I don't think
He's
so
not even.
anymore.
He's going to be in the second round, maybe, maybe.
No, you're crazy.
We'll
Some
see.
some Looney Tune's going to take him before that
We'll see.
because they don't
And
understand how this all works. But how about your boy Cyrus Torrance falling the
yes,
whole way to 59? Did the Bills
good
hit the
for them.
jackpot there or what?
Yes, yes.
I
That
was
guy's a
wondering, like, what
monster.
is wrong here? Why is he nobody taking this guy?
But honestly, man, good for him because he's got a shot at Super Bowl right away.
Oh,
You
absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of these guys do, but yeah, that's that's
know.
nice, man. Wow.
And then two other picks. One I really liked. One I just think is fun. The one I really liked, and I and I called you the next day and told you Cedric Tillman, your guy,
Yeah,
going
I
to
saw it
Cleveland.
when it happened, but yeah,
I mean, he's big, he's strong, and he's got Amari Cooper to learn from. And I don't think Donovan Peoples Jones is going to be tough to beat out as a #2 receiver there in Cleveland. And then just a fun one is Devin A. Chain or Devon A. Chain
yes,
to the Dolphins.
there's
What a
78th
perfect, what
running
a
back.
yeah, what a perfect little match for them though, because they just want really fast guys, and they have. I mean, he's going to roll into the league as one of the fastest guys
They
anywhere.
gotta have like the fastest skill set and players in the league.
Waddle and Tyreek Hill. It's so much fun. I don't think it's going to work out because A Chain's so small, but it's fun to think about.
What about my boy Marvin Mims? You hate it. I still love it. Judy, they picked up his 5th year today.
Mhm.
But I think that our boy Champagne's going to find interesting ways to use him and make him a very viable piece of that offense.
It's just the depth of that wide receiver room is what I don't like because I love Mims. You got me hooked on Mims, but we got three other receivers already in the mix with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy, like you said, plus Tim Patrick, who signed a decent contract. So that's just going to be tough for him to get any type of work, at least as a rookie.
Fantasy wise, yeah, it might not be great, but as far as football, Sean Payton now has his pick of the litter, what he wants to do. He just needs somebody that can throw to them who doesn't have the gimpy finger.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. It's a thumb, though, technically. Wasn't it his thumb?
Was it his thumb? Yeah. Was he a thumb?
I don't know. I
No, I
can't
thought it
remember.
was the finger. He had the gimpy finger, the tendon
He's
torn, and
been
the finger was
he's
just
been hurt
hanging.
for so long.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the gimpy finger.
And I know all of us love Darnell Washington to Pittsburgh. A
Oh, yes.
massive fall. A
Actually,
lot of
I
folks
hate
thought
it,
he'd go in the
but
first
love
round.
it for
Well,
him. Hate it for the
right.
Ravens.
And Steelers, man, I'm sure we'll talk about them, once we get, we start talking about our team wrap ups and all that. They
Well,
killed
here's a
this trip.
question for you, buddy. Is Jalen Hyatt right now the number one for the Giants?
I think he
The
has
day
to
he
be.
steps on the field, is he not the number one?
I think he has to be. The problem is it's going to be so hit or miss in terms of real life production and fantasy. He's going to go out and have 127 yards on 6 catches and 2 touchdowns one week, and then he's going to go 2 weeks where he doesn't get above 50 yards.
Dude, why do you
It's just
hate
going to
Danny
be
Dimes? Why do you sit down on Danny Dimes?
that's going to it's going to be
Why are you
how it
such a hater?
plays out. You
Why
don't
do
like
you
Danny Dimes either.
you have these horrible thoughts about anybody in the NFC East?
That's not true.
Danny Dimes, baby.
It's Danny Nichols at best. He's not throwing dimes to anybody.
How about that Hendon Hooker going to Detroit? And how about Nathaniel
Love it.
Dell going to Houston? I like that one too there.
I mean, we'll see. Houston's just got a lot of mediocre wide receivers.
My boy Tajay Spears, who you know I love, going to the Titans. I like that. He's a quick one. Josh Downs, that's another nice one. You already got a Gene, Darnell Washington.
San Francisco
I'm just
taking a kicker.
going through
San Fran taking a kicker.
all my people here.
Your boy Moody.
And blah, blah, blah. And
You're
our
ignoring
favorite pick of all in the first 3 rounds, number 99, Mr. Jake Moody,
There
out
it
of
is.
University of Michigan to the 49ers.
There it
Boss, Mr. Robbie
is.
Gold.
Yes, kickers. And I like that Kyle Shanahan came right out. Most people are like, well, as soon as I made that pick, people called and they were like, oh, I was looking at him. No. Kyle Shanahan said people were blowing up his phone, making fun of him for taking the pick.
Yeah.
You don't care. Look, if you go out there and you take Steven Goskowski or you take Adam Vinatieri and they end up and you take them in the 3rd round, you're a genius because they're kicking for your team for a decade and a half.
Yeah. Look at Seabass. Seabass went in the 1st round, didn't he? Didn't the
Yeah,
Raiders take Seabass in the 1st round?
Yeah, but I mean, that just goes to my credence of
Well, the guy should be in the Hall of Fame for a kicker,
I'm
but
glad.
there's very few kickers. What, only one right now, I think, that's in there, right? Or is there 2 now?
Did they put Ray Guy in?
Well, he's a punter.
Yeah. What, they kicks footballs?
Well, yeah, but place kicker and punter are different things. Yes, Ray Guy is in. We're gonna have to look that up for next week.
I think so. I can't think of his name though. I think it was another Raider though. Stenerud.
Jan Stenerud is in?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought he kicked for the Vikings.
I don't know.
Is Morton Anderson in?
Who cares? They're kickers.
Kickers are amazing.
We'll look at it. All right, you know what? We're rolling here. Let's just hit day 3. I don't have a lot to say for day 3.
I say I don't do days. I do rounds.
Okay. 4 plus.
Kaylee Ringo.
Yes,
the Eagles.
Yes.
What a freak. How?
I don't know. Dude.
How? He was supposed to go like early, mid-second round.
Yeah, I know. 105. And people, I saw some people on Twitter saying, oh, you guys gave up a 3rd round pick for a 4th round. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. But listen here, dummy. The Eagles are planning on having the last pick in the 3rd round next year. So if they give up that pick, right, and so they're only dropping like 6 spots.
Yeah, all that is just stupid people that don't know what they're talking about.
It's just you're looking at the number of the round, not the number of the pick. The number of the pick, you're moving like 4, 5, 6 spots.
Now, 4th round, there's one guy that went a little earlier than people thought. Mr. Stetson Bennett to the Rams. Yeah. But I thought it was a pretty shrewd move, to tell you the truth.
Yes.
You got an aging quarterback who they almost had to coerce to come back another season. A guy that can move with the ball, a guy that's actually very, very accurate. And I think Sean McVay could do something with his. He of these guys the guys that are being drafted as a backup has the highest chance of starting a lot of games this year.
And I think Bennett and Stafford's playing style is kind of similar, like, shooting from the hip, kind of like Lone Ranger out there.
And they're best buddies too, because Stafford went to Georgia. So they got a rapport already. I think it's a brilliant move to take him there instead of chancing not getting him in the 5th or 6th.
Outside of Bennett going to Baltimore and playing for his collegiate offensive coordinator.
That would have been nice.
I thought this was a great spot. And the pick right before him, my guy, Jake Hayner, to the Saints at 127. I mean, Hayner's a Drew Brees wannabe. I thought that was a great pick.
Yeah. let me ask you a question.
by New Orleans.
If the Ravens hadn't made the deal with L-Jax Thursday morning, do you think there's a chance Bennett might
Yes,
have went a little earlier
I
to
do.
them, that they would have said, you know what, we're not chancing this. We're going to go ahead and take him before
Yeah,
somebody else does.
absolutely. I mean, because that's such an easy fit when you have his offensive coordinator. I mean, no one knows Stetson Bennett better than
Of course.
um, what's his name? So
Yeah, and Stetson
that'd be
Bennett
perfect.
knows his nobody knows that offense better than
Right.
Stetson Bennett. He's
Exactly.
been running it for 3
Yep.
years?
One thing I think this draft is teaching me is that maybe, or maybe it's just an anomaly, this is only year. Height, weight, speed normally gets you drafted higher than you're supposed to go. I mean, remember Darius Hayward Bay? What do you go,
Oh yeah.
eighth overall or something? Again. Or no,
I think 7th overall to the
was that
Raiders.
Raiders? Yeah. I mean, if you're super fast, especially if you're really big and fast, you get drafted high. But Darnell Washington dropped. My guy, Adibaware, 6'2", 280 pounds, ran a 4.440. He fell into the fourth round. He was getting mocked quite frequently in the first round. I thought he'd be a first rounder, not just because of that, because he's versatile. He can play edge, he can play defensive tackle, all the way to the fourth. Khalil Ringo, we talked about.
Yeah,
That
so
dude ran a
weird.
4.340 and dropped to the fourth round. Bryce Ford Wheaton. Man, I talked about him on our wide receivers.
Didn't
He
get
played wide
drafted at
receiver
all.
Right, 6'4", 220. One of the biggest receivers in this entire class also ran a 4.340. Undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
I mean, you think someone would thrown a 6th round pick his way just because of his measurables, but who knows, man? Maybe we're getting away from that, or maybe this is just an odd year.
So a guy, we're going all the way to the 7th round here and
How about
finding
Antonio
our
Johnson
boy.
dropping a 160?
Or wait, are we at where? Yes. We're up to 229. A guy who you actually mentioned during one of our pre-draft shows, Mr. Andrew Voorhees.
Yeah.
Ravens trading back up. They didn't have this pick. They didn't have any more picks. They trade up to take him. Do you want to tell everybody why you loved him, or do you want me to tell them?
Go ahead.
So at the combine, he tore his ACL. And on the very next day, instead of all these little sissies who get a hangnail and don't even do anything, don't even show up, dude goes out with his torn ACL, which I admit I've torn my ACL, and it has very little, if anything at all, to do with the bench press. But still, stayed at the combine, went out the next day, and still pumped out 35 reps at 225 with his leg brace on, walking out on crutches, and still did his thing. Because you know what? That's what real men do.
Meanwhile, Jalen Carter couldn't finish his pro day workout because he was too sloppy and out of shape.
Too much eating pizza and racing cars.
Man,
Killing
oh, and
people. Such.
don't forget, a couple picks after your Voorhees went, the Seahawks took another running back, Kenny McIntosh, the receiving back out of Georgia.
They
How many
sure
running
did.
backs they need there? How many they need?
That's crazy. Oh, by the way, Voorhees, obviously he's going to miss this whole year, but he was slated to go probably late second, early third if all this craziness hadn't happened. So I think that's
Poor
another
guy.
one. You see a lot of these experts again. One of the steals of the draft was somebody taking him there. It's like the guy that takes the year Jordy Nelson tore his ACL like preseason. One of the guys in my league took him with his last pick, knowing he's just going to stash him on the IR for the entire season, knowing I got Jordy Nelson the next year, and I didn't have to spend anything to get him.
Right.
Who's our Mr. Irrelevant this year? Because last year's Mr. Irrelevant is probably the most relevant Mr. Irrelevant ever. And
Yeah.
from all intents and purposes, it looks like it's going to stay that way for some time. So we have, how do you say his name? Is it Deshaun or Devon or
I would think
Dijon?
it's Deshaun,
Dijon? I think it's Dijon, like it's J.
like a mustard.
Yes. Dijon Johnson, defensive end
Mustard
out of
Johnson.
Toledo to the Rams.
Old Mustard Johnson. I hope he does great.
Me too.
I hope he gets a sack on his first snap in the
Why not?
preseason.
Our
Well, I'll
friend
tell you
Tyson
this thing.
Badgen didn't get drafted, but
Yeah.
signed with the Bears about 10 minutes after the draft ended.
Um,
That boy from I forget his first name, Joey Fisher from
Joey
Clear
Fisher.
Spring, right down the street from us here.
You.
Niners, signed with the Niners.
Yep, sure did.
And I think two of the Maryland guys that were thought might slip into the draft. I don't know where they one of them signed somewhere and one of them signed somewhere else.
I know there's
One of them
300
signed with the
guys.
Ravens.
Well, I tell you what was in. Yeah, you're right. I'll tell you what was interesting is the Rams after winning that Super Bowl and Les Snead, the GM, comes out and says, "F those picks,
Yeah.
those draft picks." I think by the time it was all said and done, the Rams picked 13 players.
Yeah, they got a bunch. They just didn't have
Yeah.
anything early. And
Right,
again, I don't care if they only had 2 players. They won a freaking Super Bowl. Better
100%.
than my
I'm on.
team, who just mediocre every freaking year.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go through some quick winners for me as far as the weekend goes. Okay, so all rounds of the draft. Obviously, we already talked Philly. Two picks we didn't touch on were Tyler Steen. He's a offensive, probably going to be a guard, play tackle, but everyone thinks he'll move to guard from Alabama. They're going to take an offensive line, and then Sidney Brown, safety from Illinois. He's like the first real safety that was taken in the whole draft. I know Brian Branch was drafted and all that, but they were a lot smaller. The guys that went, he's like a bigger boy. And then I know you mentioned earlier they traded away next year's fourth round pick for DeAndre Swift. I just love everything about all of that except for Jalen Carter. Pittsburgh, I brought up briefly. And it was like they were on auto draft in a fantasy league where this is the first person, the next best player on your queue is who goes. And this happened to be at positions of need for them as well. So Broderick Jones in the first, Joey Porter in the second. Again, I'm not big on him, but it fills a need at corner. Keanu Benton was like a poor man's Jalen Carter, defensive lineman. We already talked Darnell Washington. Even Nate Herbig, linebacker from Wisconsin, solid pick in the fourth round. And then I also liked Arizona. Not so much for the picks that they got this year, although Paris Johnson, obviously great, BJ Ojolari, decent edge player, and Garrett Williams. But a couple next year in 2024, they have 2 first round picks, a second, and 3 thirds.
And the
So
first are
they have,
probably going to be pretty early.
yes,
Both of
again,
them.
you could be
Unless
1 and 2.
unless those teams have a massive turnaround.
Pretty sure they're going to be top 5 picks.
There's a very, very high probability of it, yes.
They are set up for success in the future. So not necessarily what Arizona did as far as draft picks this year, but how they set themselves up for the future.
Even this year was nice. Mel Kiper gave him an A-. He gave the entire NFC or AFC North, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Bengals, all B pluses. He thought they all just nailed it and are going to kill each other once again. His top team was the Eagles. Didn't give anybody an A plus, but he gave them and the Seahawks both A's. Cardinals and Giants A-, and then the B pluses started.
So let me ask you, weekend losers. I wrote all teams in the NFC East except for Philly, simply because of what Philly was able to put together. Now, look, I don't forget about the quote the dream team that Philly tried to put together a few years ago. That didn't work out too well. It was like a 4-win season, I think. Yeah. So I'm not going to get out of my seat here just yet, but things are looking pretty good.
But that's different. That was pulling in people from all over, wasn't it?
Free agency,
this is building from the ground up, drafting. It's a completely different thing. And they're already amazing. Now you just add a few players that should make it even better.
And they're getting, think about Landon Dickerson a couple years ago. He came from Alabama. The Steen fella this year from Alabama. All those players from Georgia. They're drafting players from the best college teams.
The thing is, they could just get rid of their first, second, third, fourth, 6th, and 7th picks, and have only just got Ringo at 105. And I'd still give them a B plus because the one thing that they're granted they have 2 of the top in the league corners, but they aren't getting any younger. And just having him to learn from them for a year, probably be starting opposite one of them the next year, that alone makes them so much better. And then you just add all this other stuff just for shits and giggles.
Now, and Ringo, one thing I heard, so his big knock was his tightness, right, and not being able to turn and transition with receivers. So if that's the case, and because he's a big boy, I hadn't seen this too many places, but what if they tried to transition him into a safety?
Which they need. I said that to you the other day. But I think that would be later. Yeah.
Either way.
No, I agree. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Keep the ball in front of him.
Yeah, and I mean with that athleticism, man, he's the guy who had the interception to seal the national championship victory. He had like a pick six.
I didn't realize that. Let me ask you this: can
Um,
Tanner McKee run that offense,
not
or
that it
is
wouldn't be
he
the same
just
offense.
okay? This
He's a
guy's
pocket.
here. Let's take him.
He's a pocket passer. Yeah, he'll battle with
Because
I don't know whoever else is in there.
isn't Mariota your number two now?
Yeah. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
he can
Mariota will
run the
take. Yeah.
offense. Not like
Yes.
Hurts can, but I don't think there's going to be a huge change in style or play calling with him.
Correct. Yeah, they would definitely have to change a lot if McKee had to come in and take some snaps. A team that I wasn't big on were the Chargers. I man, I'm not sure they did a lot to improve on offense, especially. I mean, I know they got Quentin Johnston, but how did they get their defense to be any better? Their defense was 29th in yards per play given up last year. I don't know how you go into a draft and don't try to really build up a defense when you're going against Patty Mahomes twice a year.
Yeah.
You got to stop this dude, or at least try, you know?
No,
But
and maybe and possibly a rejuvenated Russ. And now you
true.
got Jimmy G in there, who's no slouch either. So yeah, taking two linebackers with two of your first three picks does
Yes.
not inspire quarterback pressure.
Yeah. And then a defensive tackle in the seventh round was another. I don't know. I mean, they took. All right. Here we go. I just got done talking about Philly taking guys from Georgia and guys from Alabama. Okay. In this draft, the Chargers took Quentin Johnston, Darius Davis, and Max Duggan, all from TCU, the team that lost to Georgia.
Quarterback and two wide receivers.
You're packing your team with players from the wrong collegiate program,
Well,
fellas.
I don't know. They were number two in the country for some time and made it to the national semifinal. Or no, they made it to
They
the final.
the
Yeah, they lost
championship.
in the final. So it's not like they're just some like 5-7 team.
They got smashed.
They did get smashed there, but they were smashing everybody else leading up to it. I mean, they did make the national championship
They
game.
did.
That's like
They
saying
did.
the Eagles sucked because they lost in the Super Bowl.
It's too fresh. I'm so glad, dude. I am so glad we didn't go to the draft. It was just a sea of red, and
It
I
was
just
everywhere. Wow.
crying the whole time.
Wow, it was pretty crazy.
I'd have been miserable. And then honestly, the 49ers, their first pick wasn't until 87. And I know they have one of the best rosters in the league, but I I just don't
Mel
think they did
Kiper
enough to
has
keep.
them dead last, B minus,
Yeah,
the worst B minus in the whole thing.
tough to. I mean, I don't think they kept pace with what Philly was able to do. And to be honest, I don't think the
Well,
casual
they
fan is
couldn't.
even
They have a pick till 87.
right. What they, I mean, they could have made moves, traded up, packaged something,
Yeah.
get rid of Trey Lance if you can.
But
But
even
honestly,
package, they'd be packaged in the future because they didn't have crap in this draft, dude. They had 3 third rounders, and their next pick wasn't until the fifth round, 155. So they
their
even
most
that the picks they had were all so late, you can only move up so far.
their most notable player drafted was the kicker, Moody.
I agree. No, nothing here. It's too exciting. That said, again, like the Eagles, they have such a stacked team as is. All they really need is a quarterback with an elbow,
That's
and
right.
they'll be fine. And
I
I
agree.
think Lance is as good as going.
And just
I
think they
would
took
bet money right now that he will not be on that roster come week one.
wow, that's bold.
I can't see it now. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't see the point. You said the reason. The offense that Purdy's going to run is some Darnold will be able to run. That's
Yes.
not a Trey Lance offense. Um,
Right.
and I think what happened, some we talked about last year before the year, like what are these guys going to do if they get into the season? Lance isn't what they thought he was, and you got Jimmy G sitting on the bench, and then it ended up Purdy, who they can actually win with. Are these guys really going to want to go back to Lance so they can play crazy football, defenses on the field all the time, and eking out wins when these other two guys can deliver them not exciting but easy wins?
Think about this. So San Francisco has maybe one of the biggest bungles of a move up the draft trade scenario of all time, moving up to take Trey Lance, who's
Yeah.
so far not any good. And they gave up the farm to do it. and it didn't matter.
Nope.
They're still fighting for a Super Bowl spot,
Yep.
even after giving up all that stuff. Hats off to you,
Because Mr. Irrelevant
John Lynch
and
and
keeping
Kyle
Jimmy G
Shanahan.
when everybody thought he was
Wow,
it was as good as going.
that's
They're just a
impressive.
stacked team. You trade for Christian McCaffrey, and what you give up for him, a 2, 3, and 4, wasn't really that crazy to give up to get McCaffrey.
It didn't feel good this weekend.
No, it didn't. But like I said, their team's young. It's not like they have a bunch of aging veterans. You got Debo, who's what, in his fourth year.
I think
Uh,
so.
Kittle maybe in
Ayuk,
his fifth. Ayuk in his, I think, fourth. Purdy in his second. Even Darnold, it seems like he's been around forever. This is only like his fifth year in the league.
this is the seventh team though.
Well, that may be. And then McCaffrey, who runs now the same he did as a rookie.
Yeah, you
Um,
see him training. He trains like a sprinter. You see that video
yeah, he's a
online.
nut, dude.
He's awesome.
And
I
his
love
dad
him.
was awesome too. He was on many of my
Yeah.
fantasy teams in the '90s.
Oh, Eddie.
Yeah, he was a cat because back then we were actually doing. I was in a league at that point with full point PPR. So Easy Eddie was him and Rod Smith there in Denver. I think at one point they became the first teammates in history to have both over 100 catches in the same season.
Oh,
If I'm not
maybe.
mistaken, there's one of those years in the mid to late '90s. I think they both broke 100.
All right, sir. We rolled through that draft, man. Whole thing. I wasn't sure we get to it all, but I think we did well.
Well, once you get past like the second round, it's really just hit or miss on a lot of the guys. Either they're just not that exciting to talk about, or haven't even heard of a lot of them.
Yeah.
We because you and I, we have other lives on top of this, so it isn't like we're Mel Kiper and we just are staring
Right.
at football 24/7.
Be nice.
It would be. I love Mel Kiper. He's still dreamy to me. He's the godfather of it all.
He invented mock drafts, I
He
think. I
did.
mean, this
Sitting there
whole
staring at his
world.
VCR, doing all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but I'm sure you do. Originally, he was contacting teams and like selling his service to give them draft tape, to give them stuff, and that's how he sort of got a name, and then ended up on ESPN because he had all this information, and then he just gave it to the world instead of just to individual NFL teams.
And he eats a piece of pumpkin pie every single day for breakfast.
Does he?
Every
I'm a
single
big
day.
fan of pumpkin pie.
I am a huge fan of pumpkin pie.
Bought a
I couldn't eat
put
it every day.
some Cool Whip on top there.
Yes, fat
Things are
free.
going well.
He does fat free Cool Whip and
Well, I don't do the
pumpkin
fat
pie for
free
breakfast
now.
every day.
That's too plasticky. Let me ask you this: what's your favorite type of pie?
It's tough, man. It depends on the day. Pumpkin is definitely in the running. I love a good coconut cream.
Oh yeah, it's my dad's favorite.
It
Key
might
lime's
be
where I go.
it
I
depends.
freaking
It's
love.
tough to get a good key lime pie. Now, if it's a really good key lime pie, then
Yeah,
I'm in. I'm not a big fruit pie guy.
yeah.
Apple pie, as much as I
That's
love America, I just can't.
you say some of the stupidest things sometimes, and I just sometimes wonder why I'm even friends with you.
I love the things that you choose to plant your flag in.
How about how about the strawberry pie and the graham cracker crust? Now that's good
I
eating.
do I do love a graham cracker crust.
Yeah.
It really doesn't even matter what kind of pie's in it, I don't think. Graham
Did you
cracker
know that a
crust is
true key lime pie isn't even green?
white, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a white. It's like a custard type color. Like the ones
Yeah,
you buy in the store are always green, but if it's made like professionally, it's a more of that
yeah.
custard type color. I have one in the freezer down there. One of those ones you just take it out and thaw it. It's green, but it isn't
Marie
delicious. But
calendars
it's
or
like
something.
6.99 or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good
Wait for
eating.
them bad boys to go on sale.
Yeah, you can make a meal out of those things.
All right, man. That's it. Anything else?
No, I think next week we'll start looking at what NFC and grades for each team.
Sure.
Looking more in depth as to, I mean, right now this is all very fresh. The big
Yeah.
names are on our in our brains, but we start looking deeper and see if these teams really met their needs, and if some of these guys might end up actually doing something, because we all missed out on Brock Purdy.
We sure did. But hey, it might be Mustard Johnson.
Oh, and we should mention it. This is the first episode of our second year.
Yes.
We don't
Yes, it
really
is.
talk about numbers all the time because it's stupid and annoying, but I thought that was notable.
We're trucking right along, my friend.
Okay, buddy.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for listening. Get your bet on football podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, sometimes Twitter. Yeah. Thanks for listening, Kevin. We on Apple yet?
No, because it's very complicated and weird, and I don't have any Apple information.
All
If
right.
you're
We'll see
somebody
you
who
on a
knows
week.
how to set up Apple Podcasts, give me a holler.
All right, man. I'll see you in a week.
Say, dude.